You might remember Miranda from Sex and the City, as she famously mused, men are like cabs. When they're available, their light goes on. Bing! I don't know if you resonate with this sentiment. I definitely do. The enigma of men and their stance on relationships has long piqued our curiosity as women. So to delve deeper into this topic and where the men are at, we are joined by psychotherapist Tori, Mudie, and podcaster Samir Mourani is back. So good to have both of you with us. Thank you. I'm going to start with a quick blanket question. So where are men at, Tori? Can you give us your perspective?
They're out there. And they're
out there?
Yes, they are. And they're consuming content. They're on Instagram. They're on TikTok. They're consuming relationship content. And I think it's an amazing thing. I think it's leading them to question themselves and where they're at in relationships and to seek therapy. I really think men in therapy are on a rise and really trying to do what they can to better their relationships.
And you're seeing that in your practice?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yep. Individuals and couples.
Samir, what do you think?
Well, I think women have grown up with an understanding of how to have tough conversations around their relationships, their emotions, their thoughts, and that leads to when entering the dating pool, they're better equipped to have these conversations. Whereas men, on the flip side, by the time they enter the dating pool, they're kind of fumbling their way through because they haven't been equipped with the tool set to have these conversations. It could be things like setting a boundary or expressing an insecurity or even how to have a tough conversation about exiting a relationship.
Yeah, okay. So these are all the things we're learning on TikTok now, or with our psychotherapist, right? So, Tori, this one's for you. Do men want relationships? And how do they feel about commitment and marriage?
I think a lot of men want relationships. There's that innate desire to connect. And in my practice, I'm seeing a lot of men who want to commit. I mean, maybe it's a population I'm seeing, but yes, absolutely. Want relationships, want to commit.
And Samir, are you hearing the same from men? Because you have a lot of men in your podcast talking about their feelings and their wants and their needs. Do men want commitment?
Absolutely. Men have always wanted commitment. Where we struggle sometimes is in the execution. We want to open up to our partners. We want to have these tough conversations, but we don't have the tool set, as I mentioned. On the flip side, there's going to be a segment of men who just don't know how to have these conversations, and that could be because of the fact that maybe they've never seen a healthy relationship or they've never had someone sit them down and say, this is actually how you have a tough conversation.
And I mean, I guess it starts with making yourself pretty vulnerable.
Yeah.
The other side of that is we are in a world of like digital meetups, and I'm wondering how meeting through an app or meeting electronically might exacerbate this problem of having that dialogue. Do you think it's making it harder, Samir?
I'd say so. I mean, I met my partner over a dating app during the pandemic, so there weren't really options other than that. But when you're on a dating platform, generally speaking, it's like a buffet of options, so the commitment level doesn't need to exist as much.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're meeting someone in person, you have to take the time to get to know them. You have to talk to them. You have to go for that hour-long coffee date and actually speak to them. You can't just text and ghost.
Yeah, we've talked about this on the show before. If you go and buy a bunch of paper towels in bulk, you will use more. You're going to burn through them because you have so many. And this is what's happening. Like it looks like there's so many options. So let's just try them all, right? So I don't know. I don't know if that's doing anybody a favor, the online life, but it is the way to meet the most amount of people. So I guess you just have to be honest when you're getting in there. I want to talk about the 4B movement. Has anyone in our audience heard of the 4B movement? You can, okay, someone in the front has, amazing. This is a movement that started in South Korea. It is women that have decided that they're not going to do 4 things. They're not going to have sex with men. They're not going to date men. This is heterosexual. They're not going to marry men, and they're not going to have babies with men. And the whole point of this movement was it was a reaction to the level of frustration with men not going through therapy to find, as you said, Samir, the language to actually talk about dating and relationships in a way that would work. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Do you think that men understand what women want, Samir?
I'm going to say yes, from the sense of I think everybody just simply wants the basic tenets of a healthy relationship. Safety, security, communication, honesty.
Respect.
Respect. Like, as long as you have those core tenets, I think it's very, like, the next natural step is to broker that relationship and really make a meaningful connection.
So from your perspective, it's just the execution.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, because the 4B movement is so big in South Korea, it's made its way into North America. You're going to start hearing more and more about it here as well. And, you know, the counter movement, the 5B movement, is men saying, well, women have to understand that we're just going to back off. And it's like, dude, that's what women are saying. Like, back off. That movement's not going to work because it's the same as the 4B movement. Tori, do you think men know what women want?
Not all men, no. And
No.
it's interesting because men, in my experience, aren't asking the questions. You have to get curious. Every woman is different. We all have different needs and wants and desires, and we're not all the same. So ask, get curious.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not every woman is looking for a provider. Not every woman is looking, like, everyone's got a different idea of what they want in a relationship. So there needs to be curiosity for sure. So Tori, I want to talk about some of your clients, just to get into what you have learned about men in relationships after so many years of being a psychotherapist.
I think there are some generalizations. Of course, everyone's a little bit different, but I think our culture and how society has raised men has a really big influence on how men communicate. And I'm seeing that a lot in a lot of, like, conflict avoidance, a lot of self-disclosure avoidance, not having the skill set, not having the skills and tools, and employment too. Like, I think a lot of traditional male-dominated fields really encourage and often reward a certain way of engaging. So behaving and communicating, fixing things, solution-oriented, where we don't always want that, right?
Yeah.
Let's seek to understand instead.
Absolutely. Samir, there's no blueprint for men or women, but give us some advice on women and men out there who want to be in a relationship. So we see, like you've said, we all want the same things. Execution is maybe where things are breaking off on the side of the men, but how do we get past that then so that relationships can happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it starts with investing in your own emotional intelligence. So learning how to connect to another human being first and foremost, but also being self-aware of what your needs and wants are.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it trick, but one thing my partner had taught me was if she's in a moment where she's frustrated or flustered by something, rather than that internal need to immediately solve her issue and make her feel better, is maybe take a moment and ask her, would you like comfort or a solution? And she'll tell me what she needs, especially because I'm not a mind reader.
Right.
So it'll help me at least gauge what I can do to be there for her.
I love that. That's a good question asked. Even with your friends,
Absolutely,
sometimes your friends want to vent. I'm a fixer too, so I have to ask, do you just want to vent or do you want me to help you? Oh, you just want to vent? Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's settle in. Thank you for the advice. It's fantastic. We so appreciate it.